Building a freelance video editing career for yourself is not an overnight goal, especially if you're like me and you want to transition to this career while also being a full-time employee elsewhere. Well, in this video, I'm walking you through how to build a freelance video editing career for yourself from the ground up, all within a 1-year time frame. We've got 4 different sections to cover, each being 1/4 of the year. So diving into section 1, we are getting started. Building your equipment. This is what everybody wants to talk about. Well, first of all, I cannot stress to you enough to not throw all of your eggs in one basket. Do not spend all of your savings on a new laptop before you even have a client to pay you, theoretically, for that laptop. Unless you've got a ton of your own money, or maybe your parents' money to just throw around, then buying new equipment before you know what you need can lead to a lot of unnecessary stress and frankly debt at this stage. So be resourceful here. For example, my freelance career actually started whenever I was still in college. It stemmed from an internship. I did already have a basic crappy laptop for just school stuff. And so I used a combination of that as well as the school computers up until I graduated for all of my freelance needs. So what I'm saying is start cheap if you can. Look on Facebook Marketplace or other sites and find refurbished computers. Depending on what kind of video editing you're planning on doing, you may not need the newest, most expensive computer. In fact, there are so many jobs on Upwork alone just looking for YouTube and social media video editors. That kind of content doesn't always require a ton of thick internal storage and RAM in your laptop. And so I kind of think that's the best place to start whenever you're first getting started, especially in the freelance space, because you potentially are not working with 4K content, and it's definitely not going to be gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes worth of content, or at least it doesn't have to be. Now, I do use all Mac products, so my choices are a bit limited, but from my experience, focusing on one with a relatively new graphics card, at least 16 gigabytes of RAM, at least 250 gigabytes of internal storage, and a relatively new processor. So TLDR, buy a newer model when you can afford it, and upgrade the RAM and internal storage when you can. Develop the right skills. The key here is right. Now, I am all for learning the ins and outs of video editing, but at the same time, I'm actually quite against it. I personally think it is more important for you to A, be passionate about video editing and be interested in learning, and B, only learn what you can directly apply to your work. Now, I'm a bit biased because personally, I can really only retain information long-term if I am applying it every day to something that is actually relevant to me, like what I'm working on at the moment. Now, as far as what to learn, I think that's where a lot of people tend to get a little stuck and unsure of themselves. Many of you come on here and comment that you do not know what it takes to go from liking video editing as a hobby to actually getting paid by a client to be a video editor. What skills does it take to do that? To that, I say, that's kind of nonsense. You might be ready now. How do you know? Go on Upwork right now and look at the job descriptions on these jobs. And if not Upwork, then Indeed or LinkedIn or any job website. Go to the job descriptions and look at them. Do you understand everything that's being talked about in those job descriptions? If you do, you're probably qualified and ready to apply for it. And if you don't, then it gives you a very clear, direct path as to what to learn to then be an editor for that kind of company or that kind of client, or make that kind of pay, if that's how you want to correlate it. I will always be on the side of avoid tutorial fatigue and just jump headfirst into freelancing. You might find you learn a lot faster that way. Consider what your rate will be. This doesn't have to be something that you need to be dead set on at the start, 6 months down the line, 6 years down the line. You can change your rate with every new client that you get if you want. But again, tying it to what we just looked at in the previous step, it might be a good idea to see where your skills align with the different jobs that you see on Upwork or on bigger sites like Indeed. What do you see? What is the market offering to you? Sometimes the prices on Upwork, actually a lot of times, prices on Upwork are frighteningly low. but it might be a tactic for you to just get your foot in the door with a low rate so that you can start building a reputation on a site like Upwork. And if you're not planning on getting your foot in the door and you just want to have a rate in the back of your head, this is still a great option to do that. You don't have to necessarily go with what's being offered on these platforms, but again, it gives you a good idea of what the market is offering and what you could start building off of rate-wise. Consider why you want to freelance. Now, I'm not here to convince you either way, but there are a lot of paths for video editors to take, and freelance can be a tougher one. For example, are you living in an area where there are no larger production companies or post houses or commercial agencies? Okay, fair. But given we are now in post-COVID times, remote video editing is at its most popular that it's ever been. You can find a full-time remote video editing job from anywhere in the world, really. Okay, another example. Maybe you are tired of having a boss and you just want to work for yourself. Well, it's true, I don't have a boss standing over me asking me what I'm doing at every moment of every day, but I do have bosses still, and all of those bosses are my clients. Not only do I have to make a commitment to them, but I also have to manage all of those bosses in a different way because they're all different people with different pros and cons and quirks and expectations. Okay, circling it back, maybe you are hoping to one day build your own company. Then yes, freelancing is definitely a great way to get started on that because you are your own company when you are a freelancer. You may not be a registered company, but you are still self-employed. You are working for yourself. You are your own business. Another question, are you hoping to be more financially free? While this might be a good avenue for you, it definitely might be easier to raise your rate with new clients than it might be when you're working for a full-time larger company and they have rules and regulations in place for how they pay people. However, with that financial freedom also comes a lot of financial responsibility that now you have to take on as the business owner. Are you disciplined enough to manage your own taxes, put away money for savings, manage and organize your income versus your expenses? I don't think freelance is for everyone, and it is important to know what you're getting into. As a freelance video editor turned registered business owner, I work more now than I ever did working for a 9-to-5 company. It's just all at different times of the day. Moving to working for myself was also a huge challenge in discipline for myself. Are you able to be self-motivated and get all of your tasks done? Are you able to multitask and manage those different clients and manage your money and manage your mental health and your lifestyle? Freelance is a total lifestyle change. And so I do encourage you to think it over and make the transition slowly rather than leaving everything behind and starting freelance from the jump. I think every strong editor has a general sort of style of video that they like to edit. You don't have to pick a video editing niche right now. More than likely, you are a beginner, you're still learning, but as you move through your video editing career, you might find that specializing in a certain niche is not only more interesting to you, but gives you a little more expertise in a certain area, thus helping you compete with all of that competition. Now, there are a lot of niches out there, and you do not have to choose just one. There's narrative, social media, wedding, corporate, gaming, YouTube, podcasts, commercial, sports, music videos, educational, and it keeps on going. You could even specialize in editing demo reels for people. Whatever you decide, I would make sure that it's something that you're relatively passionate about and that you can see yourself doing for a while. You're going to eventually need a strong resume that showcases your skills. You want to make sure to list any relevant experience, including any notable projects that you've worked on, or if you don't have a lot of experience, then all of the projects that you've worked on. You want to list any relevant software skills that you have, like Adobe Premiere Pro or CapCut, as well as any soft skills that you have, like organization or meeting tight deadlines. If you have any education, you want to make sure to put that preferably on the bottom of the resume. I don't think it's that important to put at the very top. And this could be either a college degree or a high school degree, if that's what you're working with. Now, as a freelance video editor, one of the strongest ways to convey your experience to people is going to be through a demo reel. This is a compilation of your best work, and ideally it's meant to showcase your editing skills as well as your style if you have one by now. So you want to start by choosing your best work. You want to show that content first at the start of the reel, assuming that people really only watch the first 10 seconds, maybe. Once you have the rest of your reel put together, you can upload it to YouTube with a private link and send it to prospective clients. You can also add it to your website or your Adobe portfolio if you so happen to have either one of those. As you move along as a video editor, you may want to consider having multiples of your resume and reel to make it easier to apply to jobs in different niches. For example, your girl has 3 demo reels currently and 5 versions of my resume, all depending on different kind of jobs that I would be applying to. It is a time-consuming process, but it is so helpful to just grab and go when you're in job applying mode, rather than feeling like you need to tailor your resume or demo reel with each job application that you do. Getting your first client. Here we go. Pick your platform. We touched on this a little bit in section 1, but you're going to want to have a few favorite platforms to check every day. I've done a few videos on the different places to apply for video editing jobs. So for my most recent one, you can definitely check that out here, and that will give you a large list of options to choose from. You're going to want to test some of these out to see how often they populate with good jobs that apply to you, which ones are worth investing your time on. And I say time because if you're going to start applying on jobs on Upwork, for example, you're going to want to be looking on Upwork every day, maybe at different times of the day, to see, 1, if jobs are popping up at better times of the day than others, and 2, to see if the client messaged you after you applied to said job. It's important to not overcomplicate your job search process. And that's why I say just choose a couple platforms, see how they work, and then expand to other websites. Apply like a boss. I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. If you're looking for work, then applying to jobs should be your literal job. And part of that includes putting time, effort, and quality into every application. You want to read each job description thoroughly and tailor each application to fit that job description. You want the person viewing your job application to feel like you are actually talking to them. I know this sounds discouraging and sounds like it will take a lot of time, but the more that you do this, it will become a second skill for you to be able to fine-tune each cover letter, show certain videos, or highlight certain skills depending on who you are applying to, what kind of job you're applying to. It can be a fun process, but it is your job if you do not have a job. And so you should treat that job with respect and put care into every application. Get your first client. No matter what platform you choose, eventually an opportunity is going to fall into your lap. It might be your dream job, it might be your worst job, it might be the job you'd never expect. Either way, it is the foot in the door that you have been waiting for. So how do you go about it the best way? Well, if you want to set this scene correctly, you want to agree upon the rate and the terms and the job and all of the details, what you're going to be doing, for how much, for how long. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Make sure that you get a very clear picture of what the client wants. Getting your first client can be a really exciting experience, and you may just want to jump into that work and start getting all of the footage from them and start creating the edit for them really, really fast so you can show them how great and fast and amazing you are, and they'll be so impressed. In reality, this is only the beginning of a complex series of steps that need to happen successfully. And so it's important for you to not jump in until you have all of the details from your new client and until you've communicated all of your thoughts and your own concerns fully. Once you're both on the same page, and now we can get into the fun part. Your first client is a great opportunity to establish your reputation as a video editor. So you want to take your time to make sure that you are delivering your best quality work to your first client. But I will note here, don't spend too much time. If you are stalling on a creative decision or you're unsure of what the client might prefer, you're better off just sending it to them rather than lingering too long to where they're waiting for the edit back just to receive notes in the end anyways about things that you need to change. Again, this is something you learn over time with the more clients that you get. There's a fine line between delivering content in a speedy manner that leaves time for notes and adjustments while also flexing your attention to detail and making sure that the edit you give them is high quality. While you're working, you also want to keep track of any issues that are popping up that might impact future projects, either with that client or with future clients. You also want to keep track of how long the project took you. Even if you aren't getting paid hourly, it's just good for you to know for your own knowledge, or in the case that a future client might be interested in paying you hourly and you need to know that kind of stuff. After you've got your first client, you can officially start thinking about your next one. You want to add this experience immediately to your resume and potentially your LinkedIn profile, and you want to update your reel if possible, if you have permission from the client. You also can ask the client if they can leave you a review on Upwork or Fiverr if that's where you got hired from them, or if you didn't get hired through Upwork or Fiverr, you can still ask for a 1 to 2 sentence review of their experience working for you that you can then add to your website. Get your next client. You did it once, you can do it again. You're probably going to need more than one client if you're going to go the freelance route. For me, it was around when I got my second, maybe third client that I really started thinking to myself, okay, I am on to something. I can do this. I feel really good about myself now. Learning how to not only get one client, but then get the second one, to me at least, means that you have really improved on your application process and you are on your way to becoming a successful freelance video editor. Moving right along into section 3, all about finessing your flow. At this point, you're getting more comfortable in your editing software, but also at this point, you might want to start working on your efficiency, getting better at those keyboard shortcuts, learning and using in practice editing techniques to increase your speed without compromising quality. A great idea also at this point, if you have gained a longer term client, maybe you're doing a video for them every week, a great idea to increase your efficiency here would be to create a template project so that every time you start a new project with them, you have a template project already made with the file folder structure that you need, as well as any graphics that you're going to be including in the video, or even some pre-made text. All of these things speed up your workflow. Additionally, you may want to consider some other platforms that might help increase your overall efficiency as well. Productivity platforms like Trello and Notion, communication platforms like Slack. Potentially you could move everything out of email, and Google Sheets is an easy, great one as well to start keeping track of your income and expenses. You also want to expand your offerings. Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Obviously, you are still learning video editing, and that can take a long time to learn. But maybe in your time looking for video editing jobs, you've come across skills that you don't necessarily have, but are interesting to you. Maybe if you learned those skills, it could improve your chances of getting more jobs in the future. Now might be a good time to start dipping your toe into these. Every video editing niche is different, and some niches do come with either soft skills or hard skills that separate it from other niches. So a few video editing adjacent skills include motion graphics, Photoshop, color correction, audio cleanup, animation, and social media management. If any of those sound interesting to you, you may want to add those the next time you're looking to level up any particular skill and dive into a few tutorials to just get a sense of them so you can add those skills to your resume. Online platforms are great places to find video editing jobs. However, they are not the best way to find video editing jobs. The very best way is through investing time into people, particularly in nurturing relationships with those around you in your community, as well as with the relationships with the people that you've already worked with the potential that they might refer you to a different client. So you can try attending networking events, join both online and local communities, and just start talking to people. I know that might sound scary, but meaningful connections can lead to long-term partnerships and potentially referrals, which are the best ways to get video editing jobs. If you've never worked in the customer service world, you're going to have a lot to learn. As much as video editing is exciting and fun and a cool skill that seems impressive, a huge core element when you are working for yourself and trying to get clients is just good old-fashioned customer service. face. So how good are you at communicating with people? Being an active listener, being engaging to talk to, being friendly and courteous and humorous. As much as your amazing edit might impress the client so much that they don't care how you talk to them, a large part of why I think that I have done well in this space might have a lot to do with the fact that I am really good at customer service. So don't underestimate it. Last but not least, let's move into section 4, centered around building our business. First step, build a brand. If you haven't already created a website, now might be a good time to start looking into that. It doesn't have to be a super expensive website. You can use Wix for all I care, but you're going to want to have a space to serve as your portfolio. Beyond just your resume or a demo reel, you kind of just want a place for it all to live in maybe a pretty themed, nicely worded area where a client could potentially go and just learn more about you while also viewing your work and learning about your experience, all in one nice looking place. If this is a legit website, maybe like Squarespace, it also provides a way for the potential client to contact you if you put a contact page on there. Again, you can use a site like Squarespace or WordPress if you are willing to commit some money into this. If you already have Adobe Creative Cloud, you could utilize their Adobe Portfolio app and create a free online portfolio to showcase everything there. Now, having a website is great. That's not the only way for clients to find you, however. You may want to consider posting more on social media to establish a brand. Even if it's just posting updates on projects or little vlogs, maybe days in the life, maybe just pictures of what you're doing. You kind of just want people to know what you do. The more people that learn just through your posts that you are a video editor, and particularly maybe that you are even a freelance video editor, the more chance you have into people liking what you're putting out there and maybe wanting to work with you. Prep for taxes. Boo-hoo, no fun. Taxes are a huge part of being a freelancer, especially here in the United States. Now, I am not an expert in this, but there are 2 creators that I found when I was first starting out in the freelance space that were really helpful to me, and I will link them both below. One is the Business Finance Coach, and that's where I found my free spreadsheet that I've now used for years to track my income and my expenses, as well as prepping for taxes. And then another one is the Self-Employed Tax Guy, who offers just a lot of general helpful advice about being self-employed. I don't give a lot of advice on this area because frankly, I'm in the thick of it. I am not an expert really at anything, but I'm not an expert at doing taxes. I still have a lot to improve on. There are, of course, things that I have learned over the years, and such advice I definitely can give to you. One of those being to take time to do your bookkeeping every month. Create a money day. In fact, create 2 money days a month where you make sure that you are, 1, paying all your bills, all of your expenses, invoicing your clients on time, as well as managing how much you should be putting away for your taxes. I would also advise you to pay your quarterlies unless you are arm in arm with a wealth advisor and you have some other special plan of what to do with that money. You should just pay your quarterlies. And then of course you want to keep all your receipts and keep it all organized so that it's easily accessible at the end of the year. And then as far as actually paying your taxes, you don't have to necessarily get a tax professional. If you want to save some money, I only hired someone to help me with my taxes last year. Before that, I was using Credit Karma Tax, which has since turned into Cash App Tax. And that worked fine for me. As long as you keep everything really organized and you follow the instructions and you just take the time, it could save you a lot of money in the long run. In this year that you've been freelancing, you may have noticed a few things that you love and that you prefer to do, and then maybe a few things that you are not so good at or that you really don't prefer to do. Now, this is important to recognize as it's going to give you a better, clear path on how you can create a long-term sustainable career for yourself in this space. Recognizing your strengths is important for setting yourself apart. You can market yourself better with these strengths. You can perfect them even more so that you are really, really good at those things. And you also might enjoy your days more if you are focusing on those types of tasks that you really enjoy. Understanding your weaknesses can help you with what you need to focus on, or it gives you the chance to consider if you prefer to pay someone else for that particular skill or service. Self-awareness is a huge part of freelance. And for me, it really helped me at the start of my business when I started getting a little overwhelmed with the work that was coming in. What are things that I can offload? What are things that I need to do myself? What are things that I can eliminate entirely? Prioritize the money. You may have heard of the Pareto principle before, the 80-20 rule, that 80% of consequences consequences come from 20% of causes. And this can be applied to all sorts of things. In the case of editing, it could be, what is that 20% of our clientele that are giving us the 80% of profit? And this could be a great exercise for you if you are struggling with maybe too many clients. Maybe you're juggling things that you kind of know you should just get off your plate, but maybe you need some clarity on it. So what is the 20% of your work that makes you the most money? What is the 20% of your work that you find easiest or most enjoyable to do? What is the 20% of your day-to-day that leads to the most productive results? This can really help you see with a little bit more clarity what is weighing you down or maybe is not worth the money that you're getting from it. And with that 80%, now you have a choice. Can it be delegated or can it be eliminated? We all have lives outside of video editing, hopefully. At least. While it's important to love the work that you do, it's just as important to have a life outside of it. It took me a minute to wrap my head around this one when I was coming out of film school. I remember connecting with different video editors, either from school or from work, and I'd follow them on social media and I would see that their lives aren't really centered around video editing. My brain first went to, they must not like video editing that much, or they must not be real video editors. These people were hikers and bakers and crafters or dancers. Obviously, since then, I have become so much more than just a video editor. So much so that sometimes I think about posting social media content, day in the life of a video editor, and I'm like, the things that I want to show don't even have anything to do with video editing. Because honestly, sometimes that's the most boring part of my life. Especially in this freelance space, we need our video editing clients and careers to complement our lives and to not overtake them. Freelance is an avenue that gives you the potential to get that thing, financial freedom, and to potentially get more satisfaction out of our days. But if our days are so filled with video editing that we become bogged down and we can't enjoy other aspects of life, you might end up just straight up hating video editing. We are in this for the long game. So the goal is always going to be, we want to be video editors, but we also want to live our lives, and we want that video editing to complement our lives. Well, it's felt like a year since I started recording this video. So assuming a year has gone by, I want to congratulate you on making it a full year as a freelance video editor. And if it actually has been a year for you, please, oh please, comment down below so that I can actually congratulate you. I'd love to hear more about your freelance story and which of these sections you are currently in and how things are going for you. So definitely leave a comment below. Again, be sure to subscribe for more tips on video editing as well as freelance lifestyle. Thank you so much to my team. Again, I'm Colleen and I'll catch you in the next video. Have the best one.